Hey everybody, and welcome once again to Ancient Ways for Modern Days. My name is Mike Freeman, and today we are in Hebrews chapter 12. Really, this book of Hebrews, it's coming to a conclusion. And chapter 12 begins with this incredible picture of Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. And it gives us this encouragement to keep our eyes on him and to remember what he endured on the cross. That he had a greater joy set before him that allowed him to see this cross as something he could endure. Now, I start there, but that's actually not the text that I want to zero in on. Rather, I want us to begin to think about how sometimes as believers, we face difficulties. This is such a basic truth, but oftentimes we have this idea, we have it flipped upside down. I mean, sometimes here's what we think. We think, God loves me, and so because God loves me, nothing difficult should happen in my life. Nothing could be further from the truth. The Lord loved Jesus. God the Father loved Jesus, and Jesus went through the most unfair treatment possible when he died for our sin. And so when we say, if God loves me, why would he let this happen to me? That's really misunderstanding who God is. It's misunderstanding his love and his desire to shape us and to mold us into the men and women that he calls us to be. And the reality is he uses the hard stuff in life to shape us to become those people. And so here's what I want us to look at. I want us to look at Hebrews chapter 12, starting in verse 7. And let's look at, the author is just quoted from the Proverbs. We're going to look at that in a minute. But he's describing how discipline actually is a mark that God loves us. Let's look at our text. It says, "It is for discipline that you have to endure. God is treating you as sons. For what son is there whom the father does not discipline? If you are left without discipline, in which all have participated, then you are illegitimate children and not sons." This is when you face trial and tribulation and difficulty, God is using this as a form of discipline in your life. And we are to look at this and we are to embrace it, saying this is a mark. Look at this. This is a mark that God loves me. God's love is not expressed in an easy life without problems. Rather, God's love is marked, and it's expressed in a life that's marked by clinging to him in difficulty. As he works in our soul, leading us to trust in him, not trust in the comforts of this earth, not trust in our own abilities, but to trust in him. This is without this discipline, you're not his child. When you go through difficulties, this is an expression of God working in your life. I would add, when you're grieved by your sin, when you find yourself in sin and you have that inner compulsion that says, I hate this about myself, I hate this sin, in there the Lord is working, shaping you to love him and to love holiness and to despise sinfulness. Let's continue, verse 9. It says, "Besides this, we have had earthly fathers who disciplined us, and we respected them. Shall we not much more be subject to the Father of spirits and live? For they, our earthly fathers, disciplined us for a short time as it seemed best to them. But he, God the Father, disciplines us for our good, that we may share his holiness." This is remarkable. This reminds us that earthly fathers, they discipline us as they think is best. Man, what truth there, right? If you're listening in your father, I imagine this resonates in your soul. There are moments when we parent and when we discipline, we think, I think I'm doing the right thing. There are moments when we look back, we say, I responded with anger there, or I was quick to speak when I should have gathered all the facts. I think every father, every parent wrestles with that. But this says our earthly fathers, they discipline us as they think is best. But God the Father, he disciplines us for our good. It says that we may share in his holiness. He wants us to become holy. He wants to turn away from sin and to walk in a life of purity for his purposes. Verse 11 says, "For the moment, all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant. but later it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. I mean, this is Captain Obvious moment, right? In the moment, discipline is not enjoyable. It is not pleasant at all. Listen, when we're going through trials and tribulations, when we're dealing with difficult things, there's a reality. The reality is it's hard. It's not pleasant. But we look forward. Just like Jesus, he endured the cross, despising its shame for the joy set before him. When you and I go through difficulty, this teaches us that later what's going to be yielded in our life, the result is going to be the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it. This text actually quotes the ancient wisdom of the Proverbs. Proverbs 3, verses 11 through 12, it says, "My son, do not despise the Lord's discipline or be weary of his reproof, for the Lord reproves him who he loves, as a father, the son in whom he delights." Now, there's so much we can talk about here. We can talk about being parents and disciplining our children and remembering that this is actually an expression of loving them by teaching them what's wrong and what's right, by instructing them so they will choose as they get older. They will choose the path of wisdom, the path of goodness. But this is actually a shadow of God's love for us as he disciplines and reproves and corrects and trains us so that you and I can be men and women who in this world of difficulty stand tall, stand firm with our faith rooted in Jesus and his death and resurrection, and our hope focused at how our character is being matured through difficulty, and ultimately at the eternal hope we have when Jesus comes and saves us to the uttermost. Now, this is our ancient way for our modern day. It's to remember that God's love is not expressed in an easy life. Rather, God's love is expressed in his discipline for his children, shaping and forming us to become men and women who live for Christ and who live looking like Christ in our character. This is our ancient way for our modern day.